some more Series 13 on the break. I asked my boyfriend, who's been top 10 on the Series 13 ladder, what do I talk about? And he said, honestly, like, I don't even know what Series 13 is at this point. So,
Yeah, a fair analysis, I would say.
but there we go. It looks like for Gahaku, we have, a typical Zacian Caloric Shadow Core, but we also have a Kyogre, a Zekrom, a Whimsicott, and Incineroar. So that's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and then Rayko is a prominent Spanish player who emerged in the online era, having multiple results in VR as well as the Desafio LATAM circuits. And they have a very similar team as well. They also have the Whimsicott Tailwind mode, and this is exactly what I expect to see when I think of Series 13. I think of high octane offense. Whoever goes first is probably going to win, and massive damage every turn. So should be a really exciting matchup here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gahaku is no stranger to IRL and online tournaments. Of course, he's played at the Japan Nationals 3 times, which is their one and only competition to qualify for Worlds. Was a runner-up for PGL Series 3 with the Kabuki Kittens, and top 4 in the APAC League with the Lavaridge Boosters. Also, a fun fact to note is on Gahaku signups, he said that he was very eager to play Series 13, which from somebody who read all the signups, that is quite rare to see. So I'm very excited to see what he can bring to the table today.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he did as well. If he does this as well with the Tokyo Thunders as he did with the Blizzards that I was teammates with him on in NPA 11. So very excited to see what we have in this match here for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see a little bit of a mirror. Great trainer cards, also, by the way. That's something that I personally believe we should pay more attention to. But let's see what both players lead. I'm expecting to see some Whimsicott, Caloric Shadow, perhaps. And it looks like it's going to be Whimsicott and Zacian from Gahaku, both shiny. They're looking super cute together. And a Whimsicott, Caloric Shadow over on Rayko's side of the field. So probably some Tailwinds coming out, maybe some switching around. Caloric Shadow can't safely one-hit knockout Zacian most of the time based on Series 12 metagames. Not quite sure how it is in Series 13, but interesting to see what both players go for here.
Yeah, Tailwind is an option for both sides, like you said, and we saw from the team from the selection there that the Calyrex does not have Will-O-Wisp, so this Zacian's pretty free to go for an attack, but we'll have to see what they decide to do here.
Harm Whimsicott into the Zacian, putting that Zacian down to -1, of course, because of the Intrepid Swords boost, and Whimsicott going for, I'm pretty sure, a light screen there based on what it's facing down. Caloric Shadow going for that Astral Barrage, but the damage is going to be mitigated by that light screen,
Wow.
only doing about 45% to the Whimsicott, only like 30% to the Zacian. Behemoth Blade coming out into that Caloric Shadow, chunking it down quite a bit, but still not as much as I would have expected, meaning that this Caloric Shadow probably has a little bit of defense investment in it.
Yeah, for sure. That charm definitely paying off pretty well, and I think we were both expecting a Tailwind this turn, but we actually got damage mitigation from both Whimsicotts, from the light screen from Gahaku's side and the charm from Reiko's side. So very interesting. I'm not sure exactly if the Whimsicott meta has stabilized in Series 13, so I'm not sure if these are standard sets or if these are just techs they've thrown on, but they're both very effective in damage mitigating.
Absolutely. Charmed Whimsicott is something that has been explored in Spike Myth as well, and looks like that Tailwind is finally coming out. But it's very interesting, a really cool tech, especially in, a format that does have those powerful steel types such as Zacian. Light Screen once again putting in work, not allowing this Caloric Shadow to take any knockouts, getting its Grimnay boost. Another Behemoth Blade coming out into that Calyrex, finally picking it off the field. A 2-hit knockout through Charm is still very impressive and speaks to the power that is Zacian. And a Moonblast coming out from Whimsicott, hoping just to chip it a little bit. And they got that special attack mitigation. So this Whimsicott, if it has any sort of offensive special move, won't be packing as much of a punch as it would have in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And not too effective in this turn necessarily, the Whimsicottization, not too scared of the Whimsicott, but Could be good for something like the Zekrom in the back to not worry about Moonblast damage as much. And looking at Rayko's side, it's going to be pretty difficult to deal with the Zacian or the Zekrom in the back. Excuse me. They only have a Regieleki in the back and this Zacian, which to a Dynamax Zekrom might not do too much. So we'll have to see how they play around that if Gahaku chose to bring it.
Absolutely. Gahaku saving that Dynamax factor for a potential Zekrom in the back with only a Regieleki and perhaps Player off on the Zacian to threaten it. It's definitely very scary for Rayko. And I mean, we didn't see much of Zekrom in Series 12, but now that it can be surrounded by powerful Pokemon such as the Zacian, the Kyogre, the Calyrex Shadow, it's definitely sitting a lot more comfortably in this new metagame than it was before. And it looks like Incineroar coming in, hopefully I'm getting some Intimidates drops onto the Zacian, also resetting the Charm on Gahaku's side of the field.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like the Whimsicott on Rayko's side's also equipped with some screens of its own, and the Gahaku's finally going to go for the Tailwind. So, very interesting turn here. The Zacian's going to go ahead and go for a Behemoth Blade. I can imagine it's probably into the Zacian slot that is now the Incineroar. Yep, so that's not going to do too much, and it's going to take it down to, I mean, that did maybe 15, 20%, so not a ton of damage done here. But yeah, Gahaku, interestingly, decided to stall the Tailwind this turn, so gonna have one extra turn than Rayko if the Whimsicott is taken out on Rayko's side. So yeah, very interesting board position here.
Absolutely, and I'm just a little, a little shocked, I guess, by these Whimsicott sets. I mean, I think they're incredibly cool. So we have Tailwind, Charm, one attack, presumably Moonblast on both sides, and Light Screen. It looks like. So that's very interesting to me. It's not the standard Whimsicott set that we're used to, and I'm interested to see whether or not this Incin, stays on the field, potentially going into that Incineroar with a Flare Blitz, if it's going to switch out. Zacian on Rayko's side of the field will be switching out in favor of the Regieleki. This is an Assault Vest variant. Doesn't mean much in face of this Incineroar, and it looks like the Whimsicott on Gahaku's side of the field going for a Charm. Doesn't really matter to this Regieleki because it is a powerful special attacker, and unfortunately for Rayko's Whimsicott, the Energy Ball was not enough to take out Gahaku's Whimsicott. Incineroar does go for that parting shot, hopefully bringing in something like that Zekrom, something like a Kyogre maybe, something that can really put on some offensive pressure, because so far, not a lot of offensive pressure on the field, not a lot of damage dealt. So I'm interested to see, when they flip that switch and go on the offensive instead.
Yeah, and the special attack drop from the Moonblast was actually pretty pivotal that turn because the Energy Ball wasn't able to KO the Whimsicott. So it's able to stick around for one more turn. And the charm on the Whimsicott on Gahaku's side was also revealed. So proving me incorrect that this does seem to appear to be somewhat of a standard set with the Light Screen and Charm. And the Zacian is now just going to be able to get back in under some Tailwind. And yeah, it's still under threat of Charm, which is pretty interesting. So we'll have to see what it goes for here. And this Regieleki's damage output is severely weakened, assuming that it's physical, given that it's Assault Vest, but also being parting shotted to lower the special attack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be hard for this Regieleki no matter which side it's attacking on. It looks like it is clicking that Electro Web, hoping to slow things down on Gahaku's side of the field because they do still have that Tailwind up. Not sure if it has petered out on Rayko's side of the field. This might be their last turn, or this is the next turn that it peters out. And it looks like Whimsicott is going for that Charm into the Zacian again, making sure that it can't take many names in this upcoming turn. Electro Web is coming out, slowing down that Zacian, and finally removing Gahaku's Whimsicott from play.
Yep, one Whimsicott going to go down, so Gahaku no longer has access to Tailwind, and we are going to see a Behemoth Blade. Let's go ahead and see what it goes into.
Absolutely, and it is going to be going into that Whimsicott. Even with the Charm, it is still enough to take out Whimsicott. Our little cotton ball friend does not have the best defensive. It is going to be super effective, so both Tailwind setters are removed from play, both Charmers are removed from play, so maybe it's time for, things to speed up, even, without Tailwind. And we're going to see the plays becoming a little bit more aggressive, a little more oppressive. Interested to see, what both players are bringing in now for their free switch.
Yeah, Rayko is in an interesting spot here because they're sort of forced to max their Regieleki, who has taken a charm and a parting shot. So regardless if it's physical or special, it's not going to be doing too much, especially with that light screen on Gahaku's side. But it's an interesting way this game played out. You look at both teams in team preview and you say, okay, both have Tailwind and they have really hard offensive hitters. But the game sort of played out in a slow, methodical manner, trying to reduce damage and position the board in a way that you can take knockouts later in the game, as we're seeing here with the Kyogre and Zacian coming in on Rayko's side.
Absolutely, and it looks like Gahaku did not bring that Zekrom, and most likely will be maxing their Kyogre in this match, which normally in the face of a Regieleki would be incredibly scary, but because this Regieleki does have that special attack drop and the -2 of attack, it might not be as oppressive as it could have been. Also, it is holding that Assault Vest, meaning that a Max Geyser may
Mhm.
not be enough to take it out, as, you know, Regieleki usually does fall victim to one-hit knockouts. But holding that Assault Vest, even in the rain, there might be a chance it hangs on, but I'm not quite certain of that yet.
Yeah, and to your point, even if it does hang on, I don't know how much damage it's going to do back. The Kyogre itself might be holding an Assault Vest, and given that the Regieleki's damage has been reduced so much, the Kyogre might be able to just clean up the game here with a few Max Geysers.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Gahaku Zacian did target into the Regieleki as well, even if the Kyogre, you know, isn't enough to clean it up, the Zacian will definitely be able to make sure that it is knocked out. The Zacian will most likely be moving first before the Kyogre, so
Mhm.
it would be Hemoth Blade in, and then the Kyogre potentially to clean up. It looks like both parties are Dynamaxing here, Rayko with the Regieleki and Gahaku with the Kyogre as we expected, but I'm interested to see what both players picked here and how much damage this Regieleki is going to be able to do into the Kyogre. Oh, it looks like Zacian is protecting on Rayko's side of the field, maybe anticipating into that slot instead. But looks like a Max Geyser is coming out into that Regieleki, and interesting to
Wow.
see that Kyogre moved before the Regieleki.
Yeah, I think the tailwinds might have expired here. My inability to speak Spanish has not confirmed this, but I believe that would be the case here.
See, también, también. My Spanish is also very limited. But as we saw, that Max Geyser did only a little baby chunk into this very, very chonky Kyogre. Will Behemoth Blade be enough to pick up the Regieleki? It is not, unfortunately, for Gahaku Zacian. Electric does resist Steel. A pretty decent counter to the oppressive force that is Zacian, but this Regieleki only has one more turn to do anything, as you know it is in the red health, and attacks from either side of Gahaku's field will just sign its fate.
Yeah, and the assault vest not helping it out here. It's gonna go down to a double target because it can't protect. And I actually had the opposite impression of that Max Geyser. Despite the light screen and the assault vest, I was shocked to see it still do half and two-shot the Regieleki. But the follow-up with the Behemoth Blade sort of sealed its fate, like you were saying. And yeah, we'll have to see how Rayko decides to target here to sort of bring this game back.
Absolutely, and I'm having a very hard time. I apologize to anybody viewing the stream. I'm having a very hard time seeing when everything is expiring. So if I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm surprised that this was faster, I do apologize about that. It looks like another Mac Lightning coming out into that Kyogre, doing a little bit more, getting a little bit of a higher roll, but uh, this Kyogre is still in the green. Rayko's Zacian going for that Behemoth Blade into Kyogre, chunking it pretty decent amount,
Ooh.
bringing it down into the red, but it is able to hang on, unfortunately. Even with a crit, this Kyogre is able to hang on, firing off another very powerful Max Geyser into this Regieleki, doing its last little bit of health and putting Rayko in a very precarious situation. And I'm interested to see if and how he's able to climb back up from this.
Yeah, I think Gahaku just sealed up the game there with that survive. I was thinking that, the only way Reiko could get out of this was with crits, and they got the one with Zacian, but with the Intimidate drop, it just wasn't enough. And now Gahaku can go for something like a Fake Out and Max Geyser, and I think they just have too much health left on their side for Reiko to come back. So, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they adjust in game two.
Absolutely, and even as Kyogre is in the red, unfortunately, it does not matter when it is in its Dynamax form. So Max guys are still able to do a decent chunk to the Zacian, even through its Protect. And where I'm interested to see, if Rayko can get any more information out of Gahaku, hopefully get some ideas on all of the moves, all of the sets, so he can further adjust for game two. But he is pinned by Gahaku. Zacian going for that Behemoth Blade, hoping to finish off the Kyogre most likely. Kyogre will be going down, but Gahaku still does have their Incineroar, able to fire off that Flare Blitz, maybe even getting a burn onto this Incineroar.
Yeah, we are going to see the Flare Blitz go off. We'll have to see if it gets the burn. It actually does a huge chunk of damage even in the rain. It must be a crit. Yep, there it is. And that should be enough damage that another one should follow it up, or the Behemoth Blade from the Zacian that is waiting in the back. So, very interesting game here. I was a bit surprised to not see the Zekrom from Gahaku, but they ended up not needing it at all to sort of take out Rayko's very offensive pieces. So, selfishly, I'm hoping to see it in game two, just because it's a mon we don't see very often, but proving that they don't need it to get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is an interesting matchup, into Reiko's team because they do have those two fairy types, but it still would be cool to see. And unfortunately for Reiko, not even able to take out the Incineroar with the Behemoth Blade, leaving Gahaku's Zacian able to clean up this game one and bring us into our game two.
Yeah, very exciting. Not quite the hyper offensive game I was expecting personally, but some very good strategies from both sides to mitigate the damage and set up in a position that Kyogre could come in and not be worried about the Regieleki, even though it appeared to be physical, given that it was Assault Vest, and yeah, able to just clean up, do some good damage to the Regieleki, and then let the Zacian finish it out, and then all they had to worry about was the Zacian.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, to build on that point from earlier, you um you and I both expected to see some very fast hyper offense games just by looking at team preview, and to see both of them kind of like position their pieces in just the right way, stall at each other's tailwinds and light screens. That was very interesting to see from that very hyper offense core. I mean, Zacian, Calyrex Shadow, Whimsicott is a hyper offense core that actually won worlds this year. So to see it play a little bit slower was really interesting to me, and I hope that we get to see some more interesting pieces come out in this next game.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the strategies adjust to account for that, for those positionings. So let's get right into our game two.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to see, maybe Gahaku brought the Zekrom this time. It looks like on his side of the field will be that Incineroar and that Calyrex Shadow Rider. And Indeedee Zacian on Rayko's side of the field, already a very interesting adjustment. Although giving Psychic Terrain to Calyrex Shadow might not be the greatest thing, but at least for Rayko, it is mitigating the possibility of a fake out from Incineroar, meaning that it either has to switch or go for something like a Flare Blitz into that Zacian.
Yeah, we'll have to see if this Calyrex is equipped with a Focus Sash. I don't believe we saw it on the Whimsicott in the last game, so can't confirm that necessarily. And I don't think, I mean, I think Calyrex with some bulk is able to live an intimidated Zacian, but yeah, at this point, Rayko's pretty safe to just go for a Follow Me and a Behemoth Blade into the Calyrex and not take too much damage. But a very different start than game one. No Tailwind Setters to be seen, and yeah, some damage mitigation and redirection to boot.
Absolutely. And I'm interested to see. I can't quite tell exactly what Rayko is clicking, so I'm excited to see, once they communicate what he ended up going for. Most likely a Follow Me. Actually, no, since the Zacian is going to end up using Protect, this Indeedee might be attacking. It looks like the Incineroar did go for a Flare Blitz into the Zacian, and Indeedee is going for Expanding Force. Won't affect the Incineroar on Gahaku's side of the field, but breaking a potential Focus Sash into this Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Yes, and I think that's a really good play there by Rayko to go ahead and try and break that sash. I think the Calyrex went for a Will-O-Wisp because I saw the word Fuego or something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
So I think it was a Will-O-Wisp at the Indeedee. The Protector was really smart. So now the Indeedee can just safely go for a Follow Me, avoid any parting shots or Flare Blitzes that are coming into the Zacian as well as the Will-O-Wisp and try and take out the Calyrex.
Absolutely. And speaking of taking out the Calyrex Shadow does protect on Gahaku's side of the field. Indeed, he goes for that Follow Me, hoping to catch a parting shot or a Flare Blitz that would normally be going into that Zacian. And it looks like It will be going for that parting shot into the Indeedee. They probably were hoping that it would go into that Zacian, but Incineroar will be switching out, preserving its Fake Out and its Intimidate for later in the set.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Gahaku goes into. It's still kind of a stalemate position because I don't think this Calyrex is going to do too much to the Zacian if it decides to go for an Astral Barrage, but it also can't Will-O-Wisp because it's in danger of the Follow Me from Indeedee. So it looks like Gahaku decided to go into Kyogre here, which is really good because now you're threatening spread damage in the max or in the Water Spout as well as the Astral Barrage, or you could just max your Kyogre, which isn't too afraid of an intimidated Zacian in general. So pretty safe to go ahead and do that. But hopefully, you got to hope that it's able to take out the Indeedee, which had the Psychic Seed, which we saw.
Absolutely. Indeedee is a very annoying Pokemon to face down, especially if you are Calyrex Shadow who just wants to go for that Astral Barrage, do a lot of damage, take knockouts, get those Grenade boosts. Unfortunately, with Indeedee being a normal Psychic type, puts a big dent in Gahaku's plans, but maybe bringing out this Kyogre will allow it to remove the Indeedee from play, but it will be more difficult because it does have that special defense boost. It did look like Zacian was clicking Play Rough here, hopefully, hoping to take out that Kyogre and mitigate its water spout damage a little bit, even if it doesn't knock out. Incineroar coming back out onto the field, still not able to really pressure a Fake Out because of the Psychic Terrain, but it does put the Zacian down at neutral now, I do believe. No, at -1 finally, because it already had that initial drop from the first Intimidate. Indeed, going for that Follow Me again, but if this Kyogre went for a spread move, it doesn't quite matter. Play Rough only doing a little bit, and looks like a Water Spout coming out from the Kyogre, doing about half to both the Pokemon on the field. Probably would have done about 70% if it weren't for that Play Rough by the Zacian.
Yeah, the Kyogre took some damage there from the Play Rough, and it weakened the Water Spell, but I don't think you mind too much if you're Gahaku. That still did a really big chunk to both Pokemon, and you're able to get the Incineroar in and lower that Zacian to -1, like you said. So, yeah, not too threatened there at all, and I really like the decision to preserve the Dynamax for Gahaku, because if they have something like the Whimsicott in the back and they're able to reposition and get the Kyogre in a spot where it can just start clicking buttons as a Dynamax option, then yeah, it should be really, really good for them.
Absolutely. And we do see Rayku's Zacian switching out here in favor of their own Kyogre. Pretty good play by Rayko, simply because that Zacian is now at -1. Wouldn't be doing as much damage as it would like to. Looks like an Origin Pulse coming out from Gahaku's Kyogre, and it does connect with both sides, but still not enough to take out the Indeedee. Unfortunately, this is one especially bulky Indeedee. It does take that parting shot from the Incineroar, leaving Gahaku open to repositioning his side of the field a little bit.
Yeah, pretty safe play from Rayko there, going ahead and switching in their Kyogre to take the Origin Pulse a bit better, and going for the Follow Me to redirect a potential parting shot. You don't want the Zacian to take, or you don't want the Kyogre incoming to take a parting shot. So pretty safe play there, but Gahaku going for the parting shot now allows them to get something in that might put on some more offensive pressure. And this Indeedee, while being a bit annoying and redirecting, has proven to be a bit too passive and has allowed Gahaku to get in a really strong offensive position with this Calyrex.
Absolutely. Calyrex Shadow back on the scene, ready to hopefully do some pretty decent damage to this Kyogre. And we did see in the little switching screen that this Kyogre is not an Assaultus variant, it's more of a Life Orb variant. Still could be holding a good amount of special bulk, but it will just be opting for that Protect, not wanting to risk anything here. It looks like I have no idea. Oh, it looks like
Snarl.
it was going for a Snarl to hopefully take out that Indeedee. Again, I apologize. I'm not the most well-versed in Spanish, but it does give that Calyrex Shadow a Grenade boost and remove its most annoying threat that it cannot hit from play.
Yep, and I believe that was a Thunder going into the Kyogre. So pretty good play there by Rayko. The Calyrex does have a +1 boost on it now, so it's a bit scary if you're Rayko, staring down the Calyrex Shadow and the pretty healthy Kyogre still on Gahaku's side. But they do have the Regieleki in the back, which should be able to outspeed both, and you can go for something like an Airstream plus Water Spout, and you should be able to tank a Max Kyogre hit or anything like that if Gahaku decides to go for that, because you are Assault Vest Regieleki. And we did see it do about half last game, so I would expect it to do around 75% if that light screen was impactful that last game. So Yeah, it's still anybody's game at this point. I think I thought Gahaku had the advantage that last turn, but now that Rayko has the speed advantage with Regieleki next to their own Kyogre, I think it's maybe swinging back in their favor a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about these hyper offense teams. You think one is ahead, and then all of a sudden, no. They take
Yep.
back that momentum. Very interested to see how much damage this Regieleki can do. It's in a much better position than it was last game. It also had that -1 special attack along
Hmm.
with Gahaku having Light Screen in play. So this Regieleki can kind of just pick off whatever Pokemon it would like to right now. So they will be going for that Dynamax. And I did see that Regieleki was opting for a max airstream here, guaranteeing that the Kyogre will also get a little bit of a speed boost, maybe even allowing it to move before Gahaku's Kyogre, depending on how it was trained and depending on how his own Kyogre is trained, because it could have opted for more bulk instead of speed. Max airstream coming out into that Calyrex Shadow Rider. Not doing too much damage though, leaving me to further my belief that this is a little bit of a bulkier variant. Astral Barrage does come out doing
Wow.
massive damage to that Kyogre. Kyogre does get to outspeed and fires off a lower powered water spout, doing a little bit of damage, but most importantly, allowing the Calyrex Shadow Rider to live to see another day. Thunder coming out from Gahaku's side of the field into Rayko's Kyogre, removing it from play, and giving Rayko a free switch into presumably his Zacian now.
Yeah, so Rayko revealing that their Kyogre is not exactly the speediest Kyogre. I believe most Kyogres should be able to outspeed a Calyrex at +1 speed, so showing that this Kyogre is a little bit bulkier and maybe it has a bit more special attack investment. So very interesting to see there. And yeah, the Airstream not really doing much to the Calyrex. And I think if you expect the Kyogre to not outspeed, you go for something like a Lightning and just go ahead and wrap up the Calyrex. But yeah, now I think Rayko has a little bit too much damage taken, but maybe something like some more airstreams on the Zacian will be able to make it fast enough to take out the rest of Gahaku's team.
And the one thing we still have to note is that Gahaku still has the Dynamax factor on his side of the field, where
Hmm.
as this is going to be the second turn of Dynamax for Rayko. So I'm interested to see, what he's going to do to maybe stall this out, or what he's going to bring in to, match the behemoth that is a Dynamax Regieleki. It looks like Protect's coming out from both sides of the field. And a Max Lightning comes out into this Kyogre, and even though this Kyogre on Gahaku's side of the field seemed to be a little bit bulkier, it was not enough to hang on, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at the remaining mons for Rayko, they lost their Kyogre, and Gahaku still has their Incineroar. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a Dynamax Incineroar at some point during this match, because we know the Regieleki is physical, and if the Calyrex, well, no, Calyrex is Indeedee and Kyogre were the other two. So yeah, Incineroar is able to come in here and cycle out some Intimidates, and we might see we might see a Incineroar max for the end game.
Absolutely, and that would be very insane to see, and I think I would love to see that. It would be something different, something we haven't seen on stream yet. It has happened a good handful of times in my time playing in a Dynamax metagame, but it'll be very interesting to see, especially when Gahaku had so many other max options. But it looks like still no max from Gahaku. They can just go ahead and fake out that Zacian. Um, and I don't believe that a Max Lightning would have been able to kill the Incineroar, or knock out the Incineroar, but it is
Hmm.
able to take out the Calyrex Shadow Rider, allowing Gahaku to safely bring in their last Pokemon, and that does spell the end of Dynamax and Rayko, or is there going to be one more turn? I cannot remember at this point in time.
Yeah, you got me as well. I don't remember. I think they have one more turn after this. We saw the Airstream and then a Lightning. So, oh nope, this is the end. Okay,
All right.
so I mean, if Gahaku wants to use his Dynamax, it's going to be the Incineroar. So that'll be pretty exciting to see. And the Zacian has the damage output advantage in terms of Rayko's side as well, because it's not intimidated as the Regieleki and Zacian are. So I would expect to see something maybe like a Protect from Gahaku's Zacian to try and not take an Electroweb plus Behemoth Blade, although the Zacian is intimidated on Rayko's side, and try and just pick off one of the two. You might go for the Regieleki with a Max Flare because it cannot protect with the Assault Vest, so we'll have to see which they decide to target here.
Absolutely, and I have seen a physical Regieleki variant in the past make its rounds around the VGC circuit, but
Hmm.
the one thing that I've never really liked about it is the fact that you do leave yourself susceptible to Intimidates, to Burns, to Incineroar, the biggest threat in every metagame that it has been allowed into, and we do see that Dynamax Incineroar. I do believe that that was
Wild
a
charge.
wild charge into the Incineroar. I saw something about Cruel, and I was like, did the Regieleki use Snarl? Did it learn that all of a sudden?
Yeah.
But anyways, Gahaku's uh Zacian able to pick off that Regieleki, allowing this Incineroar to potentially go for that max flare into Zacian, sealing up a clean 2-0 for Gahaku. Rayko, of course, put up an incredible fight. Both teams were so good, but the pendulum did swing out of Reiko's favor a little too far, allowing Gahaku to just clean up these two games.
Yeah, and Dynamax Incineroar is definitely not what you're expecting to see out of Series 13, but in this game, once they eliminate a victory in the end game, I appear to now be a Gastrodon, which is very interesting. But I still wish we kind of saw the Zekrom. I think that's one of the coolest features of Series 13 is that you're allowed to be a little more flexible in which restricted you choose. You can throw in a mythical here and there, but very well played on Gahaku's side regardless.
Absolutely, and GG's to both players. Now it does look like the Tokyo Thunders have had that decisive victory, 5-3 over the Celtics of Torkoal. The Torkoals really needed a tie this week. Unfortunately, aren't they're not out of it altogether. There are still many opportunities for them to come back, but I would have liked to see maybe a tie this week. But GG's to both players, and don't go anywhere. We still have one more match left for you today between Zelda and Torviv. It's going to be a great Spike Myth match, so don't go anywhere, and we will see you guys soon.